Welcome to USA Global TV and Radio, where our mission is to provide education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. USA Global TV and Radio connects you with experts and audiences all around the world every single day to help you succeed in business and to live a richer life. Visit us at usaglobaltv.com to learn about career and life-changing training and mentoring programs like the Listening Mentor. Subscribe to our newsletter to stay informed about our special programs and offers. Discover how you can become a guest on one of our shows or a host or producer of a USA Global TV and Radio show of your very own. That's USA Global TV and Radio, where the doctor is always in.
TV and Radio, where we provide world-class education, entertainment, hope, and inspiration. I'm Caroline Heward, your host for tonight's show. Our show tonight is A Woman's Prerogative. A warm welcome to our loyal viewers and our new viewers that are here for the first time. And a very warm welcome to those that are watching on the live and the replay. Our show today is brought to you in partnership with E360 TV. Hello to all of our friends and our loyal subscribers. A Woman's Prerogative is our show tonight, and our topic is a very interesting one. Digital diplomacy, how social media is redefining global etiquette. This is a bit of a pet thing for me and a really, really cool subject because as I am a baby boomer, the last of the baby boomers, I remember that when I was at school, which was a long time ago, we wrote in proper sentences and we learnt real grammar, where to put capital letters, full stops, commas, semicolons, and all sorts of other grammar etiquette. And I feel as a baby boomer and the way that we grew up in learning English and English language and the way that we communicated was very much long form. And in researching for this particular topic tonight, I was really quite surprised to see that some of the bugbears that I had were coming up in my research. And so let's dive into the subject. Let's get going into the topic. So how has social media changed the way that people interact globally to traditional communication methods? Well, as I just mentioned, that when I was growing up, we used everything as long form. So letters were long form. It was dear sir, dear madam, yours sincerely, yours faithfully. Well, that's all gone by the wayside now. There's none of that. It's much more informal. It's much more, I get a lot of text messages and messages just saying, hi, hello, how are you? And they're just one-liners. And I kind of think, well, what's all that about? What do they want? You know, I would introduce myself by saying, hello, I'm Caroline Heward. I read your advert on this site and I'm really interested to find out more about your services. I'm interested to find out more about this specific service. Could you give me more information? This is how you can contact me. And I would like give a proper introduction. But very, very much now I see that it's very much short form. It's almost like the written communication has become very much a text hi, and then you go hi back. And then they come back with, how are you? And then you go back with, I'm okay. How can I help you? And they come back and say, are you having a good day? And it's very, very challenging for me because I don't have the time to do that kind of backwards and forwards. But this is the way that a lot of younger generations, certainly the millennials and also the alpha generation, and Generation Z, who have just come into the workplace, that there is much more short form and a lack of interest in seeing capital letters, full stops. Now, there's something I want to share with you about that in my research over recent months, so certainly over this last year, I have noticed that, and in my research, I've seen that the millennials and certainly Generation Z feel that you're being very confrontational when you send a message by text or any form of written communication that includes capital letters, full stops, commas, essentially grammar. And if you introduce paragraphs, they don't read it. They only read one-liners, 1 or 2 lines. And if you put full stops or capital letters or paragraphs, they don't actually assimilate it, and they feel that you're being, 1, confrontational, and 2, they're feeling uncomfortable about that communication. And so they don't read it and they don't communicate and they ghost you. Now, I didn't realize this, and in my research over this past year, when people have come in and said hi, I've also felt that I've been feeling confronted with, well, hi yourself, what is it that you want? Tell me who you are. No introduction or anything. And sometimes they don't even say their name. So this is just something from the generations that I have noticed that's changed. But let's look at how digital diplomacy, in terms of how social media, refining etiquette, understanding generational communication, as well as being acceptable and accepting how the different generations are receiving that communication. So traditional methods of social media have changed the way that people communicate from traditional, which was long form. And the reason for that is because there's less time, there's more immediacy, there's more need for an immediate communication, an immediate response. So it's instantaneous. Also, it's real-time interaction. A hi receives a hi back. Hello, how are you? Receives a hello, how are you back? And if you don't respond back immediate, they wonder what's wrong. I've certainly received messages with 4 question marks because I haven't responded within a minute. And in 30 seconds, they start to get very aggressive, putting 2 question marks. And then in a minute, they've put 4 question marks saying, essentially, why aren't you responding to me? So there is a real-time, instantaneous requirement to respond. Now, this instantaneous response mechanism that our generations now in social media are expecting and almost demanding, is like a quiet and a silent understanding that there is an expectation that you respond instantly, is that it blurs the lines of formal and social communication. This hi, hello, it's much more informal from the way that we would write long form, as in terms of emails and letters. And certainly there's no dear sir or madam, and there's no yours sincerely, faithfully. There's none of that, and there's no paragraphs. And so it does change the way that people are receiving that communication. I'm very much a fan of grammar, and even when I'm texting, I will write everything in full. And I've had some friends make comments about the fact that they're amazed at the time and the trouble that I take to write messages in full with proper commas and proper grammar. And that's because that's the way I am. And at the same time, I'm now very aware that the etiquette of younger generations is finding it offensive and almost so confrontational that I'm losing the opportunities to engage with some people because they feel that I'm being very confrontational with them. So when there is a requirement to be immediate in your response, it then doesn't allow you or give you the space to think about how you're going to respond. And if it's something that's a little bit antagonistic or something that brings up some emotion in you, the challenges with when you are responding from an emotional place is when your emotion goes up, your intelligence goes down. And the challenge with that in terms of responding when your emotions are up is that you're probably going to blurt out the wrong thing, or you're almost going to make a faux pas and upset the other person. And there are times that I feel that when I've read a message, that when I read it the first time, and it's also about the mood that you're in and what's happened just before you've received the message, and you may scan it rather than read it in full, and you may not have taken it in the way that it was meant, and it's always about context. And if you've just had been on a complaint call, and you've been on a call with a bank for a long time, where you've dealt with a difficult situation, and then you go into that message, and your response then is from an emotional place, which has nothing to do with the person that has sent you the message. And so you may see that message inappropriately. You may think that in that space of receiving that message, that they're being a bit angry with you, or they're being a bit inappropriate with you. And so you respond emotionally and angrily. And then the other person receives that communication. They go, whoa, what's all this about? And so in that instantaneous requirement for response, our etiquette goes down the pan. There is no etiquette because there is a need, a desire, and almost if you don't respond instantly, there is a fear of upsetting someone on the other side of that communication. So it's challenging. As I've said, that in terms of the way that people receive that communication, you're not responsible for what state they're in. Now, communication, when it's written, is very flat. It lacks tone. It lacks facial gesture and facial expression. It lacks the eyes. You can't see if that person is being genuine. You can't hear the tone of that person. You can't hear whether they're being very compassionate with you or empathic with you. You can't hear if they're being angry. But if it's written with full stops and capital letters, and the younger generations are seeing that as offensive, and you're seeing it as writing proper grammar and a proper response, can you see how this misunderstanding and miscommunication can occur? So looking at the impact of global etiquette, it's important to have a realization that things have changed. I remember when the professional communication was exactly that. It was professional. It was in the professional forums. But now, professional communication is on the social media platforms. There are many people that you wouldn't have been able to have a conversation with a hi, hello, how are things? I'm having a bad day. I'm having a challenging. That just wouldn't have been heard of. And I'm really surprised in my feed to see people like politicians, for instance, and celebrities writing about their day and inviting comment and responding to comment with one-liners. And it's really blowing my mind in terms of the fact that I'm a real fan of Tony Hadley. And I've been following Spandau Ballet since 1979, when they first came out onto the scene. And when they first came out, it was very underground. I was very much seeing and dancing to that music in the nightclubs. And now he actually is in my Facebook feed, and he's talking about daily things, and it makes me think, OMG, I'm actually here with Tony Hadley talking to him in his everyday life, and it's quite amazing. So people are more reachable. People are much more open for that conversation, and it is a conversation even though it's on social media. So because the professional settings are blurred, there are politicians using social media, and we have seen some interesting changes with the political environment and social media. We have seen huge sways of opinion and changes in the polls because of social media campaigns. And that was not the case Previously, when I was growing up, it was very much a very professional and public debate on screen, on TV, and in the press and press conferences. Now things are being thrashed out in front of your very eyes, in your living room, in your bedroom, on your phone, when you're in your privacy of your own home. And so in this space of your privacy, norms are blurred. It's completely unbelievable how the norms have become. It's normal now to have those conversations, those difficult conversations, and those challenging, structured conversations of what you believe and what the other person believes. So when does it become a minefield when you use social media? And I'd like to share with you a time in the UK. It was in the UK, and it was very talked about. So I'm sure that this will be a subject that there will be a lot of people that have some familiarity with. And this isn't to get political. This is just to give you some insight. But the UK has exited Brexit and has gone through Brexit and exited the European Union. Now, my mum, she's a very wise person. And when I was young, she said to me, there are 3 subjects to stay away from when you're in conversation and in your social. And she said, if you stay away from these subjects, you'll have friends for life. You won't offend anybody or upset anybody. So she said, these 3 topics, stay away from, because they're subjects that people have a strong belief in and you'll never sway them. One of them was politics. The second was war. And the third was religion. And there was a couple of others as I got older that she brought in, such as sex and education about sex. But in the main, what we're talking about is politics here in my example. Now, I saw in front of my very eyes very professional people that I knew from corporate through my personal self-development world that were very evolved as people and in coaching and environments where they've really done a lot of work on themselves. And I saw huge slating and slanging matches on social media about Brexit, that some believed that we should and some believed that we shouldn't. And what there was huge debate and outcry and outrage on either side. I watched, observed without getting into it, because I remember my mum's wise words. Never get into politics, because you're never going to win and you're going to offend the other person, because you can't sway them. You can't show them what you believe. You can say and then expect there to be something that comes back that might not agree with what you believe. There was a lot of people that I saw having huge outrages with each other and blocking each other and saying very challenging things to each other that I was surprised about. And that's just one example of a time that diplomacy, because that's our subject, diplomacy and social media, wasn't looked at. The etiquette of diplomacy wasn't considered. It wasn't gracious. It wasn't observational in terms of listening, allowing each person to say something. It was more a case of the fact that people were very fixed in their view of what they believe, and they weren't open to listen or indeed open to look at somebody else's view without an argument. So this is where I feel that certainly in that example, and there are many other examples, that it's important to have a space of real diplomacy of and respect of other people's views on certain topics. And I'm actually seeing now a lot of conversation on social media about Liam Payne. I'm not very good with keeping up with what goes on television. I watch certain things. But then I found out, because there was a subject that came in, Liam Payne who was from One Direction. And I remember One Direction, and I thought, oh, they were a fun group that, fun songs, and there were dancey songs, and I really enjoyed them. I just didn't know the names of the group. And he's 31 and he's died recently, and there's a lot of controversy about it. And I felt very upset because he was so young. But the things that are being said and the things that I've read are being quite judging of his lifestyle. He did this, he did that. And there's a family and friends in the background that are grieving the loss of this very young person, the loss of a talent, and the loss of somebody that truly gave something to leave a legacy. And that, I felt, was completely dismissed with a lot of people. There has been some extraordinary emotional posts, full of sadness and, oh my gosh, how come a short life taken too soon? But then there were a lot of controversial posts. And this is what happens when we don't, and I'm going to say that again, when we don't consider diplomacy, when we don't give the family and the close friends some consideration, and we don't give them a level of etiquette. And with that, I'm going to take a pause, and we're going to go over to one of our sponsors. In a moment, we will be going over to a sponsor, and then I'll be back to share more tips and more insights about etiquette and diplomacy using social media. See you in a moment.
USA Global TV and Radio proudly presents our partner and sponsor, Mr. Philip Sykes and the British School of Excellence, building confidence, changing lives. And now, proudly presenting the Polished Professional.
On a transformative journey with the British School of Excellence's comprehensive suite of masterclasses, crafted to elevate your professional and personal life. 8 outstanding modules will elevate you to the next level. Module 1, Exploring Life's Purpose, delves into the depths of self-discovery, guiding you to chart your unique path to fulfillment and success. Module 2, Mastering Professional Presence and Confidence. This masterclass is a deep dive into the art of self-assurance and commanding presence, which is essential for standing out in today's competitive landscape. Module 3, Learn the Secrets of Visual Impact, how to curate a personal style that amplifies your professional brand. Module 4, Mastering Professional Etiquette and Communication Excellence, navigating the nuances of corporate interaction with grace and tact. Module 5, Elegance in Eloquence. We impart powerful techniques to captivate and persuade any audience with your oratory skills. Module 6, Unlock the potential of your emotional intelligence, EQ, and harness the ability to connect, empathize, and lead with emotional savvy. Module 7, Mastering DISC, building a gateway to understanding behavioral styles, fostering better personal and professional relationships. Module 8, Mastery in Dining Etiquette, building your confidence to perfect the subtleties of dining with finesse, enhancing your social savviness at any table. Step into the Polished Professional program where poise, elegance, and excellence aren't just taught, they're instilled for life. Join us to redefine your potential and polish your professional edge.
To learn more, go to thebritishschoolofexcellence.com. The British School of Excellence are investors in people. Let us invest in you.
Hello. Welcome back to USA Global TV and Radio and A Woman's Prerogative. So I'm going to now look at some other aspects of social media and diplomacy. Now, how misunderstandings occur. One of the things I want to look at is influencers. how have influencers changed social media? And my feeling is, from looking at social media and influencers, is that they take the lead. They lead by example. And they have huge followings. And the way that they communicate is also the way that others will communicate back. It's what we would call behavior breeds behavior. And if you are behaving in one way, it will lead the followers and other people to follow you and behave in the same way. So if an influencer is outraged about something, all their followers will go in line and be outraged at the same thing. And so suddenly something very small can become quite big. And influencers are much from our younger generations. They are millennials, and they are alpha, and they are Zoomers, so Generation Z. In the main, there are very few that are much older, from the older generations. And they have different ways, different standards, and different styles. And one of the things that I have seen, and I welcome some of them and I don't like some of them, and that is emojis. And I believe that emojis came from a need to stop communication that's written being flat. And so there was the introduction of emojis, emoticons, to show a smile, to show a sadness, to show thumbs up, saying, yeah, that's good, to show that you love something or you like something. And so we're very much in that emoji button, that sort of like, love, and needing that emocon to see what people think or feel about what we've said. And in the space of seeing the rise of the emojis and emocons coming into play, I like quite a few of them, and I don't like quite a few of them. And there's some that when somebody puts a thumb up, like this, I actually feel it's like a showstopper. When somebody puts a big thumb up, I used to think, well, that's great, they're agreeing. But then it stops communication. It's what I would call, like, that's it, we draw a line. I agree, we're done. And it almost feels abrupt in some way. And I didn't kind of take any notice when I was seeing that from people. I just thought, oh, maybe it's just me. But then in my research, I found that the Generation Z and Alpha and the millennials are offended by it, particularly Generation Z and the Alpha generation are hugely offended by the thumb up. And they believe that it is a showstopper. They feel it's rude, and they feel that you're just saying, okay, that's it, enough, I don't want to listen to you anymore. And I found that, I'm going to use this Britishism, interesting in inverted commas, because it made me curious as to why they were offended. And it also brought up in me personally those feelings that I also shared of, okay, like, they've agreed, now that's it, we draw a line. Like, there's no more to go. They're saying thumb up, you might have spilled your guts out. You might have said something really passionate that you're really heartfully sharing, and then they've given you a thumb up. And that's it, conversation over. And so the thumb up is definitely a bone of contention with a lot of people. Now, I'm not easily offended, so I do my best not to be offended when people use the thumb up. And at the same time, it does give a showstopper of, that's it, the line's drawn, the conversation is over. I much prefer to leave something that somebody said with a love, a heart underneath it. Or, yeah, I totally agree with you. Or, I get that, I'm with you all the way. And have a good rest of the day. It's a very polite way and a very Britishness in me. And there are still people that are communicating in that way. So it's important to have an appreciation of how different people from different generations, as well as different cultures, will receive your communication. Even the simple thumbs up can cause offense. Were you aware of that? And if you weren't, now, will this change the way that you communicate? Will this make you a little bit more thoughtful and a bit more diplomatic in how you respond to messages? Will you be more comfortable to say hi back, how are you? Even if it is with a politician or a celebrity, because I have seen celebrities, pop stars, communicating in this very, very informal conversational way. I somehow feel a bit afraid of it and welcoming of it. I'm feeling, wow, they're so close, and yet on stage they're so far away. This communication on social media has brought the etiquette into a very different space of beingness. It has moved the way that we communicate to be far more informal. And I feel it's important to have an appreciation that even though we are communicating on social media platforms, that there is, for some cultures and some professional organizations, a requirement, a need, and an expectation that there is proper communication with full grammar. And that, from my perspective, I feel is making a boundary. It's saying, hey, this is how we communicate. And it's important to have respectful communication. So when you are communicating and using etiquette, it is really vital that you have an understanding of what the other person, company, organization is expecting. Do a little bit of research and find out who they are and how they communicate and how they want to be communicated with, because you may easily offend them without even trying. There's another topic that I want to bring in, which is a huge topic, and we are almost coming to the end of our show, believe it or not, and that is that being in social media, being so open and exposed that everyone can reach you, especially if you're a public figure. And I am a public figure, as well as USA Global TV and Radio. Our wonderful channel owner and host, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck, is a public figure, and we have huge followings. And so we can be subject to trolling or aggressive communication, or people not agreeing with you and feeling it's personal. And there has been instances where public figures have been trolled to such a point that it is bullying online. And this is where social etiquette has gone out of the window. It's not even being adhered to. It's not being understood. And it's like they're in the playground. And my feeling on that, and it is a personal feeling, is that the person that is at the end of that trolling and anger, or at the butt of somebody else's beliefs that are different to theirs, is that they are exposed, and it's an uncomfortable experience because they can reach you at all sorts of times of the day and night, because that's how social media plays out. It is an immediate response, and it can reach you at 2 and 3 in the morning, as well as during working hours. It can reach you at 6 in the morning. There's no time. And also on social media platforms, certainly in Facebook and also LinkedIn, there is a way that you can see if somebody has read your message. And I have that setting on, so I can see if my message is being read, and I can also see if they've not responded. And that will bring to light an uncomfortableness for the person that sent a very nice message and waiting for a response. And when they don't get it, then there is this inner feeling that can come up of, well, what did I do wrong? Did I say something wrong? And this is where, again, etiquette goes out the window, because the person has written you a nice message, they know that you've seen it, and then there is no response. And what do you do with that no response? My feeling is, if you are not interested, is to say, thank you very much for your message. I'm sorry, at this present time, this isn't for me. Or thank you very much, I'm not the right person to speak to. Or be communicative, respond in a way that helps the other person know that you have read, understood. And if it's not for you, it saves them resending the message and like tapping you on the shoulder and basically saying, why aren't you responding to me? And in that space of being diplomatic and being responsive, saying, no, thank you for your message, but this is not for me, is almost a better way of communicating. At a level of diplomacy and etiquette. But because we are so busy, and we have a culture of busyness, we are so filled with what we have to do, what we should do, that we don't get everything done. We don't do all of our etiquette on social media. And that's because it is so fast that we've moved on to the next few messages. And we only look at what's at the top of the box. And frequently I've missed messages because I'm working on different platforms. And my invitation for you, if somebody's not responded to your message, is to simply have an appreciation. Maybe they forgot, maybe they didn't get to it, and maybe you might need to send a reminder. So I hope that this has been helpful to you in looking at the diplomacy of social media and etiquette and the platforms that we are now interacting and engaging on. I'm Caroline Heward, and I've been your host this evening for A Woman's Prerogative. I'm also known as the Harley Street Stress Expert, and I'm a TV presenter on this channel and the resident therapist. I help people bust their stress. How do I do that? I help them by identifying the root cause of what's causing their repeating pattern of stress, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, behavioral, whether it's a physical ache and pain, whether it's the fact that they're not sleeping, whether it's a relationship issue where they're always complaining about somebody that is doing something to them. My piece to resistance on, if you are complaining, you make me mad, you make me angry, is that no one can make you angry. No one can make you sad, and no one can make you feel anything. You make you feel. And when you can own and take responsibility for how you feel in various situations, of how you respond to either written communication, verbal communication, or face-to-face communication, situations and events, this will change your experience of how you experience stress and how you experience anxiety and depression. And that's just a little tip to leave you with in terms of being able to be in a space of control so that no one offends you and you can live in a much more peaceful way. You can reach me on nomorestress@live.co.uk or call me on +44 if you're international. If you're local, 07523 120 189. You can also follow me on my social media. I'm on LinkedIn and Facebook. Those are my preferred social media platforms. And you can reach out and ask me a question. I promise I will respond, and I promise I will be helpful in whatever you need. Thank you very much. It's been wonderful to deliver and be your host for A Woman's Prerogative, and I look forward to seeing you next week at 7 p.m. British summertime, which is 2 p.m. Eastern time. Bye-bye for now, and over to our sponsors.
USA Global TV and Radio, in partnership with Dr. Jacalyn LLC, present Amazon #1 best-selling author, Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck. Dr. Jacalyn Kerbeck is a certified life, career, and executive coach who teaches people how to listen at an elevated level through her courses and her books. Dr. Kerbeck teaches her clients how to open their hearts and express themselves through their creative genius. In her children's book series, The Amazing Adventures of Lady Ella, the listening mentor, Dr. Kerbeck teaches children and their families how to listen at an elevated level. Dr. Kerbeck has worked with clients across the world to guide them in how to express themselves and communicate at a highly effective level. Join our team of elevated listeners so you can listen without judgment, without providing a solution, without interruption, and without stealing the stage. To order your books today, go to drjacalyn.com or Amazon.